Today I'm going to talk about keeping reptiles in extreme heat. 117, 118 the day before, and as you can see, throughout the week, temperatures basically exceeding 115 degrees. What's that mean for the ground? The sidewalk temperature calculator says at 115, the sidewalk's at 145 degrees. Even at 97, it's 127 degrees. And these actually seem a little low to me. And I'll rely on NASA when they checked, and the sidewalk in Phoenix was 160 degrees on a July 2nd. And as you read this, that was at 1:02 p.m. when the temperature was only 106 degrees. When I got up the other morning to feed the tortoises, at 7 a.m. it was already 95 degrees. And not a tortoise in sight. They've all seeking shade. In the backyard, it's still shaded, so the tortoises are running around. But in just a few minutes, it was 97 on its way up to 112. So how do I keep these tortoises alive? And how do I get them to eat when they run and hide so quickly? Well, what do you like to do when it's hot? Cool down with some nice refreshing water. And that's one of the first keys on maintaining tortoises in extremely hot temperatures. Water not only is critical to get the grass to grow, but it cools down the core temperature of the tortoise and the temperature of the ground on which they stand. Even at 97 degrees, if these tortoises were to remain in the sun for an extended period of time, that would cause mortality in the tortoises. They're active currently at these temperatures only because the house is causing shade. And some of the Greeks, Mediterranean species, they're inactive, and I want to feed them. So how do you make them active? You spray down the pen. Not only does it provide some moisture where they can dig into the dirt to escape the extreme heat, but it causes them to be active so I can feed them and they'll come out and eat. They also will drink the water, but even this romaine lettuce has a good moisture content to help keep them hydrated. Water's not only important to cool ground temperatures and the temperature of the tortoise, but also critical for hydration. Chacos come out to eat once the ground is cool enough to stand on, as do these golden Greeks. And it's good to have their food in the shade as well. So there's two keys already. One, use water to spray down and cool down the pens so tortoises will be active. Feed them early in the morning when the tortoises are active. If you look at that golden Greek, that's another key. A lot of the tortoises will burrow right into the ground. Key 3 is keep them hydrated. Can run the hose so they can drink. Not only will they drink, but then they'll use this little puddle to soak in while it's still shaded. But proper hydration is critical for extreme temperatures. In the Galapagos, these tortoises would seldom, if ever, experience temperatures above 90 degrees, yet they've lived through temperatures of 122. But what about lizards? Lizards can't soak in the water, can they?
Iguana pen's completely shaded.
Let's check out the spiny-tailed iguanas,
You can see
Dinosaur
they're sticking their heads
pectinata.
out.
There they are in their cage, and I hose it down again to cool down the enclosure. Kind of the evaporative cooling effect. As water evaporates, it cools the temperature of the enclosure. Plus, I put the food on those two blocks that I'm soaking down there, so it doesn't just immediately dry up. Let's go to the conspics. He wasn't happy as I sprayed him as well. But important to soak down that enclosure so that it has that cooling effect, and they will do just fine in the temperatures reaching above 115 degrees. Just with cool down then.
Particularly watering the cactus.
Some species of lizards and tortoises may handle the heat better than other species, but I've successfully kept over a dozen species of tortoise and a number of lizard species, various iguanas, bearded dragons, even veiled chameleons outside in temperatures that far exceed that which they would experience in their natural range. Here, the pectinata peer out from their hide, which provides shade that protects them again from the heat. So shade's another key factor. Shade can come in many forms, from a hide to fountain grass to just dead grass. These golden Greeks like to hide in the fountain grass and actually dig into the ground. Once I spray down the pen, the tortoise comes up to eat. But burrowing down into the moist soil provides it protection from the sun and from the extreme heat. Let's check out these marginated tortoises. And the Chaco pen, again, nothing is active, but once I spray it down, the tortoises will come to life. And when I talk about shade, another thing that you might not realize is there's mesquite trees that provide filtered sunlight down into the pen. So it provides shade throughout the day, even though the cage looks pretty barren. But when you look, even the walls of the cage provide shade. And where better to find shade than right in the corner? And yep, there's a little hatchling Chaco, hatched out and is this spring out in its outdoor enclosure and has lived outside since. This is the Aldabra pen, and at 7:30 a.m. and 97 degrees, the tortoises are already in their hide. But once I spray them down, again, they'll come out and be active. Throw them some carrots, put water in their water holes so they can hydrate, and they can endure these temperatures that for weeks on weeks exceed 110 degrees. You see, they stand up tall and love that water. Spray a little in their shaded hide, provide some cooling for later on in the day. I've heard of people putting swamp coolers in enclosures and other devices to cool down the enclosure, but it really isn't necessary.
See, it's shaded by the...
Here, I'm back to the marginated tortoises, spraying down their pen. There they've got a carrot they're eating.
A lot of water in here.
I soak down this spot behind those few blocks. Why? Those blocks block the western sun, and that tortoise will burrow into that spot right there in the moisture.
On here.
I also spray down the Rhino and Lewis I hybrid pen, so they're cooled down. You see the iguana sitting up there, just likes to get sprayed when it's hot. When it's real hot, sometimes it's good to come out even in the afternoon. The iguanas may be gasping a little bit with their mouth open. Just spray them down, cool them down. But generally, that's not even required. I'm spraying that down the Chaco pen now. And of course, just like the other tortoises, once I spray it down, then I can provide some food. Also put water in their water dish. You remember that little hatchling's over there in that corner.
That little one's over there.
Make sure there's a lot of moisture in the ground there, so it can burrow in there and be cooled and protected from the sun and the heat. You'll also see that little bit of fountain grass there. It's not growing very well, but I need to water it to try to get it growing.
Little fountain grass
So,
half growing. Try
water
to water
down
it.
the fountain grass. As it grows,
Bring it
it'll
back.
provide again protection. The tortoises like to burrow in at the base of it.
See, it's come over to drink.
Here's that
Left its carrot.
marginated where I just soaked that spot. It's actually over there drinking the water.
Drinking.
Oh, and there's one of the Aldabras out drinking the water, getting hydrated. Spray it down, just like the glops, they like to stand up high.
Stand up tall.
Enjoy the spray down. You might think I use an awful lot of water, but I actually use less than the
Working on that carrot.
typical home in Phoenix. There's some Iberian Greek. Again, spray down their pen. Give them time to eat. Spray down that fountain grass where they like to hide. And also that shelter back behind there. I'll water that down a little bit. But kind of the same process for all the different species.
Drinking.
Again, it's about
Come on,
7:30 at
study.
97 degrees. And after spraying down the pen, there's that little Choco out. Came to find that lettuce from that corner. But it's actually hiding under the lettuce, so I'll pick it up. And I actually ripped it up a little bit so it could find the edges to eat a little bit, because it tried eating in the middle, had a little problem with that. But the big Chacos, they'll also appear and start eating. There's the Iberian Greek,
Almost 100
chowing
degrees.
down on
They're
their
out in the
lettuce.
shade
Good hydration.
and eating.
Their pen is moist.
Time to spray down the
But what
Urmastic
about
pen.
your mastics?
See, they're not out either.
They dig
All you can
burrows
see
so
is
they
that
can
tail.
escape the extreme heat by staying in their burrow.
Important to
Another
water
thing I
the
didn't really mention,
tree,
but I
gives
will
some flowers.
after I show the video of watering their plant that provides the flowers that they feed on, is surface temperature of different things can be drastically different. A black asphalt road will absorb much more heat than a light
I don't know
sidewalk.
if you can see
The sandstone,
your
mastic out there even, well, I think he enjoyed the spray down. But the sandstone doesn't absorb as much heat as like a lava rock. And well, these guys probably don't need to be sprayed down near as much. I also have pancake tortoises out there in the pen with them, so that helps keep them active and cool. You can see it doesn't take long after spraying down. He's poking his head out. I think I'll come out and try eating. Of course, other tortoises that dig burrow are the African spurred tortoises. The burrow provides them protection from the heat, and if there is water, they'll actually flip the mud back up on their shell that provides them further protection. And in their pens, again, I have mesquite trees and shaded areas throughout, so they can always have protection. Looks like we're back to the Choco pen, and the bigger Chacos have come out, but that little one is fishing off the last of its lettuce. These are a couple of the Cyclura pens, and again, you see they have mesquite trees above that provide filtered sunlight, have places where they can hide, and I feed them off that little platform there. And it looks like he's coming over to eat. Again, when it's extremely hot, I'll spray down their pen, sometimes in the afternoon, but doing a little bit even in the morning seems to make it good enough that they can get through the day. And the Lewisii hybrid goes, yep, I agree. Spray me down. The tree well of this weeping mulberry provides a nice moist shaded protection from the sun and the heat. And that's where they'll hide most of the day in the afternoon. But they all know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and where the shadows
No tortoise
are.
to be
You
seen.
can see the big galops. Well, they're all hiding.
No tortoises
None to be
anywhere.
seen anywhere. But if you look under some of the trees
Tortoise under
on
there.
the east side of the yard, there they are. These ones have actually found some puddles from some irrigation that's leaked through. And a nice shady pond to be in. It's now almost 3 in the afternoon. Temperature's 113, climbing to 114. And you'll see in the shade, the tortoises are out. And they were out laying there before I threw them the carrots. But that's another key. Grass and turf. If they were over on the sidewalk with the temperature at 114 degrees, the sidewalk's probably 160 plus degrees, which would cause severe burns to the tortoises. And even in the turf, if they were out in the direct sun, that dark shell would absorb heat and be lethal. But being on the turf, the ground temperature is much less. Check out this Adabra. Grass, yay. Dirt, not so much. So if you can, grow some turf in your pens. I have the advantage of flood irrigation. But when I kept redfoots and spider tortoises, I set up a series of misters, bubblers, and sprinklers, and also shade cloth to help keep the tortoises cooler and warm. There's some star tortoises with their sprinkler. They also learned where the bubbler was. And young tortoises, of course, to hydrate them, you can just soak them. For indoor setups, one thing I've done is just put ice cubes on the screen on top of the pen, and it's what I call time release water. They'll just melt and the lizards can drink up the droplets of water. Another option is a spray bottle. I like to use these bigger bottles that you can fill up with water. You can pump it a few times and then just lock on the sprayer and set it there. It'll spray till it runs out of water. I like to use those mainly on indoor pens, but I've just got it outside to show you how it works. So you can just lock it on, put the sprayer, turn it wherever you'd like it to go, and it'll just continue to spray until the water runs out. So there's another option if you don't want to set up an extensive sprinkler system. I'm fortunate in that I live in an area where I can get flood irrigation, which is a great benefit. But hopefully you learn some tricks. Let's visit the marginated tortoise. Remember how I flooded that spot by that block? And now, what's it done? It's burrowed in. The next day, it all starts over. But don't believe everything you hear. I've seen where people have said if a tortoise is in temperatures over 90 degrees, it's going to die. Well, that's not the case. So I hope you've enjoyed and learned a little bit on some of these tips on how to keep your tortoises and lizards in extreme temperatures. Take care.